All right, gentlemen, we're going to move forward with the church history show. We're doing the conversion of the barbarian kingdoms. So we're talking about the era where the Roman Empire is collapsing on a gradual basis, and the Christianizing of these people that succeed the Romans has to take place. Okay, the barbarian kingdoms we're speaking of, okay, are, as you'll see here on this map, the map's going to come back later, right? Now, it's no doubt that the collapse of the Roman Empire was a disaster in many ways, but as usual in church history, you see that there are also good developments as well. And the good development here is that the faith can be spread to new peoples. Remember in Acts of the Apostles, Christ says, baptize all the nations. And so you get new nations into the mix here, right? You see the names of some of these you'll recognize. Obviously Finland's still where it is, Norway and Sweden, what have you. Okay, the German tribes, the Goths, okay, the Vandals, and the Franks. Okay, you see the Goths. You have the Ostrogoths here settling in part of northern Germany, Austria's type of thing. They actually conquered that part of Italy. The Visigoths are in Spain, which are not really visible here. Here this is the Basques. They were kind of a Celtic tribe that managed to stay unconquered for a long time. The Vandals settled in North Africa, as you can see by the arrow. Right? And technically the Angles, the Saxons, and the Jutes in England are all Germanic tribes as well. The Picts are Celts, like the Irish. Okay, but you see some of these people. The Scandinavians are the Northmen, the ancestors of the Vikings. Well, they are the Vikings, really. Okay. Now, as we mentioned earlier in the course, most of the Germanic tribes were converted via the Roman army to Arianism. Okay, and so that's key to remember. They became Arians first. All right, so Christianity and the barbarian nations is this little section. This is an image of the Emperor Valens, who was famous for being killed at the Battle of Adrianople against the Goths. But before that, he had actually allowed the Visigoths to settle in what was Yugoslavia when I was a kid, but the areas of southeastern Europe around the Black Sea. He let them, but then there was a big battle against the Goths, and the Goths actually defeated the Roman legions. I want to say it's about 378. Okay, but the fact that Valens, who was an Arian in the Roman army, right, were Arian, and reaching out to the Goths, gave the Goths an alphabet, okay, and then since the Arians converted these barbarian kingdoms, it allowed the heresy to live longer than it would have. And while it's good they spread Christianity, it's unfortunate they spread a version that is not fully true, right? So that's become a problem. All right, just to give you a snapshot, technically 476 is the date given for when you have a barbarian king, Odoacer, on the throne of Rome. It's clearly not Rome anymore, so these are different kingdoms at about 476, right? The Visigoths here in the west, the Ostrogoths in the southern part of Germany, Austria here, and Italy. The Vandals again in North Africa. The Burgundians here, Angles, Saxons, and Jutes, excuse me. And you see the Franks. The Franks are particularly important because they pushed the Goths out of where they had been. And of course over here on the right, or on the east really, you have still the Byzantine Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire, Greece, Asia Minor, Palestine, North Africa. Okay, but that's separate. They managed to hold out for another 1,000 years, but anyway, see what's happening there. The date's wrong, by the way. Sorry about that. I should say 476, not 1476. Just notice that. Okay, the Franks. This is the map from earlier. The Franks are particularly important, so bringing back the map. And of course, the Franks, you get France from the word Franks. They're a Germanic tribe that settled in Central Europe. They arose in the late 400s, routed the Burgundians and the Visigoths, and settled what had been Roman Gaul. Right. Christmas time, around the year 500, King Clovis received Catholic baptism, not Arian baptism. This is big, because now the king of the Franks becomes the second major Catholic monarch in the world, right? Second to the Byzantine emperor. And the Franks are going to play a pivotal role in the history of the Catholic Church in the West. Right? Just give you a sneak preview, so to speak. It's going to be, France is the eldest daughter of the Church, and the king of the Franks becomes the Holy Roman Emperor, whose role it is to protect the freedom of the Church against barbarians and other peoples. It's a famous image of Clovis, the founder of their Merovingian dynasty of the Franks. Okay, the Merovingian dynasty is the dynasty before the Carolingian dynasty, and of course we talk about the Carolingian age, so that should have some sticking power for you. St. Patrick converts the Celts in Ireland. Again, this is in the 5th century, so as the Roman Empire is gradually collapsing. Some people think he was a Romanized Briton, at any rate, but he was heard the call of the Holy Spirit to go to Ireland and convert the Irish. A lot of images have him holding up the shamrock there, the famous Irish plant, and he used that as an image of the Trinity. With the Trinity you have 3 persons and 1 God. With the shamrock you have 3 leaves on the 1 plant, or 3 lobes on the 1 shamrock, so that's how I use it. In Roman Britain, pagan Anglo-Saxons had almost stamped out Christianity. Now in the Netflix series, The Last Kingdom, you see a lot of this. It's later, that's about 800, but you can see the remnants of that. But Celtic Christians, like St. Columbanus, who was one of these monks, these hardcore Irish monks that we talked about in the last chapter, brings the faith to new places in England. Okay, so it starts in Ireland, goes to England, and then you're going to have English monks, or English evangelists go to continental Europe along with the Irish. This is a famous image of St. Boniface felling the tree of Thor. And I'm partial to Boniface because he was actually the head of a monastic boys' school for a while before he was sent to Central Europe. Didn't want to go. He had a sense it would be the death of him, and for sure it was. But as a famous image in art many times, converting the Germans, because there's this tree that was sacred to Thor, and they just wouldn't believe him until he showed that the Christian God was stronger than Thor. Anyway, so here you have this famous image of Boniface, but representing the English evangelization, bringing the faith to Germany, as the Christianization of Europe during these dark ages is becoming more thorough. Now the pattern that tended to be here is that a king would convert, first and receive baptism. It's happened a lot. This is a statue of St. Stephen István, if you will, of Hungary. He was a Magyar, the tribe that kind of follows the Huns in what becomes Hungary. King Wenceslas, the great Christmas carol, good King Wenceslas refers to the other saint too, who they become baptized in their household, and technically the kingdom becomes Catholic Christian, but it takes a while for the faith really to seep into and transform the culture of these countries, as you'd expect, really. The conversion of the Slavs took a little bit longer, both the Vikings and the Eastern Slavs, like the Russians and the what have you. But Constantinople, so there's why you have this Greek split, and why you have Russian Orthodox today, sent missionaries like St. Cyril and Methodius to Russia and the Slavs. They're famous for the Cyrillic alphabet, which is why when you see things in Russian, the letters are different. And they converted Duke Vladimir of Russia at about 972 or so, or about the year 1000, which marks the beginning of the conversion of Russia. But since they were converted by Constantinople, when you have the East-West split, the great schism between the Eastern Church, the Orthodox, and the Catholic Church, unfortunately they went with the Orthodox. And the last parts of Europe to be converted, the homelands of the Vikings, and the Vikings of the area that the Vikings had really settled. So you have obviously Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark here, and then Iceland. Right? They took a little bit longer after the millennium before they were finally converted. Alright, gentlemen, that's a wrap for this short lesson, The Conversion of the Barbarian Kingdoms. See you soon.